He was never supposed to be listening to that frequency. Not at that hour. Not on that night. Not for that mission. Inside a dimly lit room in Tel Aviv, surrounded by old Soviet era radios and newer Israeli signal intercept systems, a Mossad officer named Elia Shalev leaned forward in his chair. The building was quiet. It always was at that time of night. Most of the Middle East slept, but intelligence never sleeps. A faint burst of static cracked through his headset. Then another, and another. Short, clipped, purposeful. It sounded like nothing to most people, but to someone who had spent 12 years decoding irregular enemy radio patterns, it was unmistakable. Someone was sending a warning, and someone else was about to die. Hundreds of kilometers away, across mountains, dirt valleys, and dried riverbeds, a U.S. Navy SEAL team was moving deeper into territory that intelligence agencies had long called the Afghan dead zone. They thought the night was calm. They thought the valley was empty. They thought they were unseen. They were wrong. And in exactly 14 minutes, they would walk into a perfect kill zone, unless one man in Tel Aviv broke every rule in the book. But before we get to the moment that changed everything, you need to understand how this story began, who was watching, and why the warning almost never left the room. The SEAL Team Spectre 3 had left their forward operating base at 2306. Their objective, a small mud brick compound believed to house a Taliban logistic coordinator. Every source said the valley was drones saw nothing. Signals intelligence detected nothing. Even local asses bribed, threatened, or persuaded said the road was unused at night. But the SEALs felt something. Operators talk about it often. A shift in the wind. A silence that shouldn't be silent. A stray dog running in the wrong direction. That night, all of those things happened, but intelligence gives the orders. And intelligence said the path was clear. So the SEALs pressed on. Beneath their boots, the soil changed texture. Dust became packed earth. Packed earth became smooth rock. They didn't know that this exact pattern was known by militants in the region as the path of the trap. But someone else did. Someone thousands of kilometers away. Elia Shalev wasn't monitoring Afghanistan. He wasn't even supposed to be scanning those frequencies. His task that night was simple. Review Iranian militia communication along the Syrian border, routine and repetitive. Often uneventful, so why did he drift into a frequency that wasn't even in his assignment block? Never knew. But when investigators later questioned him, when they tried to determine whether he intentionally crossed protocol, Shalev gave the same answer. Something felt wrong. For the past 2 weeks, Mossad analysts had picked up strange bursts of communication across abandoned microwave towers in the Hindu Kush mountains. These towers weren't supposed to work. Their wires were cut years ago, their power sources destroyed, their transmitters ripped apart by sand and time. And yet, signals were bouncing through them. Weak, irregular, almost ghost-like, but real. Shalev had flagged it twice. No one responded. Why? Because Israel wasn't operating in that region, because the Taliban weren't their primary focus, because the United States insisted Afghanistan was under control. But intelligence doesn't obey borders, and Shalev knew the signature of an impending ambush when he heard it. The irregular pulse, the coded countdown, the micro... It wasn't Iranian. It wasn't ISIS. It wasn't Al-Qaeda. It was Taliban, a specific faction known for deception, silence, and sudden violence. And when Shalev decrypted one fragment, his blood ran cold. It said, "The Americans enter the mouth of the well tonight." A metaphor, an old Pashto phrase. It means they are walking into their grave. Shalev did what protocol demanded. He flagged the signal and sent it through proper channels. The message went to a CIA liaison in Cyprus, a small office responsible for coordinating Israeli intelligence with American operations. The analyst on duty, Cassandra Holt, reviewed the transmission. She wasn't convinced. Her drone operators saw no movement in the valley. Her satellite feed showed nothing, and new U.S. intelligence streams claimed Taliban in that area had gone dormant. To make matters worse, the message came from a microwave tower that shouldn't exist anymore. Holt's superior said, "Ghost signals happen. Don't panic the Pentagon over superstition." So she filed it away under unconfirmed anomaly. Shalev didn't. He contacted her directly, breaching protocol. Insisted. "If you don't warn them, they will die tonight." Breaking rules is dangerous in intelligence work. Breaking rank is worse. Breaking international communication hierarchy is almost suicidal. But Holt had seen enough cases where Mossad caught something the CIA missed. She took a risk. She forwarded the message to the Regional Joint Special Operations Command Desk, JSOC. Hesitated. No drone confirmation. No human intelligence confirmation. No competing evidence, except one Mossad intercept from a tower nobody trusted, and sending an emergency warning to a SEAL unit based solely on foreign intelligence. It could trigger diplomatic backlash, but not sending it. That would cost lives. Finally, Holt pressed the override code. Red Echo, immediate ambush imminent. Change course. The team leader of Spectre 3, Lieutenant Warren Blake, received the emergency code on his wrist display. He frowned. He wasn't expecting communication. He knew the protocol. Emergency changes only come when multiple sources confirm a threat. But he also knew something else. When the CIA used the phrase, Red Echo, it meant someone was very sure. Even if they couldn't say why, Blake halted the team. Total silence. Not even the wind moved. He scanned the darkness. Nothing. No shadows. No movement. No noise. But operators trust their instincts, and trust that warnings don't come from nowhere. He made a decision that would later save all 8 men. Shift path. 5 meters east. 5 meters. The smallest adjustment possible. But the deadliest mistake the Taliban made that night was assuming the SEALs would walk exactly where they expected. 5 meters away from the original path, the earth sounded different. Less hollow, more natural. 5 meters away, the soil was safe. 5 meters away was survival. Unbeknownst to the SEALs, the Taliban had spent 3 nights preparing 8 pressure plates under the soil. They were placed in a tight pattern designed to trigger simultaneously. 8 plates, each connected by homemade copper wiring, each buried under sand, identical in color and texture to the ground. Each plate would have exploded with the force of 2 anti-tank mines. The team walked past the kill zone quietly, but the Taliban fighters, watching from the ridge, didn't understand why the plates hadn't detonated. They panicked, they repositioned. They exposed themselves. And that was the moment a US drone finally arriving late picked up movement. Within seconds, a gunfight. Short, violent, decisive. The SEALs, now aware of the trap beneath their feet, fought with careful precision, knowing one wrong step would kill them all. But because the ambush timing was ruined, because the Taliban lost the element of surprise, the SEALs survived, every single one of them. By dawn, Jasok reviewed the battlefield. The soil was disturbed in a pattern so deliberate that even the most skeptical analysts admitted they were walking into a minefield designed for them. The drones found the plates. They found the wiring. They found the detonators. But they never found the original transmission source, because it didn't come from Afghanistan. It came from Tel Aviv, a place the Pentagon wasn't supposed to receive warnings from in that region. Meanwhile, Eyal Shalev was quietly reprimanded for breaking protocol. A mild punishment, a symbolic one, but off the record, one of his superiors told him, "You saved Americans, but officially, you did nothing." That's how intelligence works. Victories are erased before they are celebrated. The CIA and Mossad have a long, complicated relationship. Cooperation, suspicion, alliance, rivalry. But on that night, none of it mattered. What mattered was that a Mossad officer recognized the Taliban pattern that Yusani Intelligence had missed because it didn't fit the current threat profile. This event sparked a quiet debate inside the intelligence community. Should agencies listen to their instincts, even when evidence seems thin? Should rules bend when lives are at stake? How many tragedies have happened because someone stayed silent? No one will ever know how many times a warning like this went unheard, but this one didn't. And 8 men returned home because of it. In the world of special operations, bullets matter. Training matters. Courage matters. But something else matters even more. Who is listening? And on that night, in a room no bigger than a storage closet, a man thousands of kilometers away heard something no one else heard and acted when no one else would. Not because it was his job, not because it was his sector, not because he was supposed to, but because lives depended on it. And what happened after that night is even more shocking, because the Taliban commander behind the ambush didn't disappear. It was hunted, tracked, and eliminated months later in an operation the US denies and Israel refuses to acknowledge. But that is a story for another night. Welcome to Mossad Files. Real operations, real agents, real secrets.